So,
what's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, joined by Anthony. We have Kev. We have Dilly Vanilli. We are here to preview week number 2 and give you our picks and predictions for this week. We are live as well, so make sure you're in that live chat letting us know what you guys think, whether that's, who's going to win, if your favorite team's going to win this week, what you thought about week 1, etc. We've pretty much covered week 1. We made a really long video discussing week 1. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already. And we're just going to get right into the week 2 picks because we noticed that the week 1 picks were a little long. It's week 1, so we'll give ourselves a pass for that. But let's start off with week number 2. And let's start off with the first game. Let's go with the Thursday nighter, Houston Texans at Cincinnati Bengals, 2 teams that looked absolutely awful in week number 1. The Texans gave up 10, not 5, not 6, not 7, 10
right, That's LeBron
sacks. That was the point. 10 sacks for the Houston Texans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got ran off their home field, while the Cincinnati Bengals also got ran off their home field by a basically broken back Joe Flacco. I was proud that I predicted that game right, at least. The Bengals scored zero points. None. Zilch. This week, it's 2 teams that look like crap on Thursday Night Football. I really have no idea who to go with in this game, but I'm going to decide to go with the Houston Texans because they're the team that I predicted to go to the playoffs out of these 2, and I'm not giving up my faith after 1 week. They're going to have a new starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson, in this one. I'm a believer in Watson, although I don't think he's the greatest down the field, in terms of accuracy. I think his ability to escape the rush will give the Houston Texans offensive line, a little bit more to work with. And the Bengals, this is a battle of 2 terrible offensive lines. So I think the Texans D-line, their pass rush will be able to dominate the Bengals offensive line, which in turn won't let that Bengals offense, use all the weapons at their disposal, similar to how the Baltimore Ravens played them. So I'm going with the Texans this week. Who do you guys have?
Okay, so I'm going to recap our records, our standings for week 1 real quick. Everybody.
I was hoping we would skip that.
Oh,
is that okay?
No. Everybody in week 1 went 9-6, except for Mitchell Milani, who went 7-8. So, that's not
garbage.
Terrible.
I demand a recount.
I recounted it 3 different times because I messed up. He's lucky he did pick the Ravens, though, because that would have made him 6-10 if he picked the Bengals.
I decided I'm not going with as many underdogs this week, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. I got to pick the Texans here. I saw virtually nothing of note for the Bengals, and I saw at least 1 to 2 good things for the Texans, so that kind of overrides them right there. But the Bengals are not a good offense. Andy Dalton did not play very well. He played terrible. If you're 0.7 passer rating, you're probably not doing well for yourself. And I have more confidence in a Texans team that I had in the playoffs, like Mitch said, versus a Bengals team I had 6-10. So even if they're home, I'm picking the Texans instead of the Bengals.
all right. Well, for me, I actually am thinking the same as you two. I'm thinking the Texans here. I was surprised. I thought you guys would be going with the Bengals, but really it's the same logic as Mitch. I have the Texans going to the playoffs. I think between the 2, they both played poorly, but there's at least a small glimmer of hope for the Texans at points during the game. I think even though it's a road game for the Texans, they've been better the last few seasons. Bengals had a bad season last year. I'm going to go with the Texans here on the road.
Yeah, I got the Texans too. I just think the Bengals are worse than I thought. Didn't use their weapons very well. The one concern that I have is if you're putting in Deshaun Watson on a Thursday, 3 days after, is going to be an interesting thing. So I actually think this game is going to be close and low scoring. It's going to be like 14-10 Houston, but I will pick the Texans to win. And they will not come out looking they will still stink. I think still people will be concerned about them, but I think Houston will win.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it will be low scoring.
And Adam has the Bengals winning this game. So he's the only one out of the 5 of us to not have that. I'll tell his picks when I'm going off next time.
All right. The next game, we have the New England Patriots at the New Orleans Saints. My Patriots lost last week in very disappointing fashion, but they had a really lackluster showing. They just no execution, no effort. Their defense looked like garbage. There was a point in the game really early on where it looked like they were going to run away with the game. 7-0. They go down, they score 14. It could have been 14-0, but after Kareem Hunt fumbled the ball, Rob Gronkowski's touchdown gets reversed. Then they go for it on 4th and 1, and the game completely changed from that point on. It was a close game until the 4th quarter, and I have no idea what happened in that 4th quarter. I don't expect that to happen again this season. Usually the Patriots play poorly at one point during September. I think that was kind of their free pass this year. We'll see what happens. They're definitely going to have a tough test again defensively with the Saints at home. The Saints didn't look too hot against Anthony's Vikings, but they still always at home are a little bit better. And with Drew Brees, it's always a tough test, but the Patriots will pull this one out. The Saints defense is very bad, and I expect the Patriots offense to be able to do pretty much whatever they want and score a lot of points in this one.
For me, I look at the Patriots as they had 3 good quarters on offense to a degree and 0 on defense, but I definitely think that they have a way better defense than the Saints, who I consider the 30th worst defense in the league. Yeah, I probably put 2 ahead of them. They looked pretty awful. There was not much to provide there. They're very young, inexperienced, and I think Tom Brady's going to make that a big change. Amendola is out, so that kind of worries me. You're going to have to rely on some other threats. But you still have Brandon Cooks. You still have Rob Gronkowski. I think that offense, like I talked about in the preview or the recap yesterday, they fumble. They kind of lost their step real quick. It's a bump in the road. And I think they're going to do it, get a win here against a much less team. Like I had the Kansas City, a lot of the guys in the bottom line view, they had them in the playoffs. The Saints, I don't think we have a lot of high hopes for them. And that's why I got to go with the Patriots. AC also agrees and went with the Patriots.
Yeah, for me, I obviously watched the Saints last week or Monday. It's only 2 days ago. But they played poor. They were bad throughout the game. Xavier Rhodes really shut down Michael Thomas and helped that Willie Snead was gone. As you go into the next week, Patriots, their defense is pretty good too. I think they won't have a problem slowing down the receivers on the Saints. It's really up to Drew Brees. If he can put the team on his back, then maybe there's a chance, but I'm being generous by saying maybe. It's not like it was a few years ago when the Saints had that home field advantage. Now it doesn't matter anymore. I'd be shocked if the Saints lose this one. I'm going to go with the Patriots, of course.
Sean Payton is going to be part of my Saturday video this week, just to give you a spoiler. And I think one of the questions that people need to start asking, I'm going to give you a hint, is this time? Is it time for him to go? Anyway, I just think that Sam Bradford threw 363 yards. No offense, Anthony. Sam Bradford throws 362
Sam and Biscuits.
Throws 362. The real life Sam Bradford, not Madden Sam Bradford, throws 362 yards on your
or
team.
college Sam Bradford.
It's the Patriots are my survivor pick. Yeah, well, the Patriots are my survivor pick this week. They win handily, 31-10. They make a statement. They don't lose 2 in a row. Mitch knows that. And the last time they were in New Orleans, they were embarrassed, and that will be a part of this as well. Brandon Cooks is going to have a big day. Look out for that. So the Patriots are going to be my survivor pick this week.
Oh, and I'm out of survivor pick, by the way. I already lost. So
yeah, you suck.
It was Houston it was Houston Jacksonville. Come on, man. What was I supposed to pick in that?
Don't you know to never bet against Blake Bortles?
This is some bullshit.
Don't you know?
Blake Bortles, franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, if you
like 10 passes, but
I didn't think the defense was going to stop them that hard. I mean, shit. Or at least I thought Houston's defense was going to stop them, get a couple turnovers. So I'm out. I don't get to pick this week. Fuck it.
So we're all on the Patriots. All right. Let's go to the next game. the Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going with the Ravens. Just simple. They won 20-0 last week. I told you guys that this defense was good. It was legit. It's one of the best in the league. And I think this Cleveland Browns unit, they did play pretty impressively against the Steelers team that we kind of all thought it would be sort of a blowout. Even though the Steelers do struggle on the road, but the Browns in another divisional game, this could be another defensive battle. It's going to be interesting to see what the Ravens do without Danny Woodhead this week. Their offense slowed a lot once he left the game. He was still the leading receiver in the game, even though he only played like 3 series.
What?
But anyways, they won regardless. They're going to run the ball a lot. That's going to be a different contrast from last week. It's going to be interesting to see if the Ravens do try and pass more, seeing as how Antonio Brown and Big Ben had a lot of success doing that last week. But the Steelers, for some reason, didn't run the ball against the Browns. I think they'll be tested in that regard this week. Baltimore will have the ball a lot more than the Steelers did last week, and I think that will hurt Cleveland. But Cleveland won't be able to run the ball with any success. This front for the Ravens is too good, and I think the Ravens will dominate this game overall and probably win it by 10-plus points, but probably still being, they'll probably still score 20 or less points, but probably win it just by a defensive score.
I actually have a score for this game. It's going to be 20-7 because I don't think that I do like what Cleveland brought to the table last week. They brought a lot of heart in here. They tried their best, but they just weren't able to get it done. And now they're playing a defense that is pretty scary. I would say so. They're going to bring that team a lot of wins compared to the offense. Which, how many throws did Flacco threw? 17 times, I think, which was amazingly low for Joe Flacco. And he threw an interception. So if the defense is going to bring it to the table, they're going to win some games, and they're going to do it against the Cleveland Browns, who, let's be honest, don't have the scariest offense in the world. And although I do like them, I don't like them against that defense. So I have the Ravens winning this game. We do have a comment I'm going to bring up real quick. Hansman says, I'm a Jets fan. Any encouraging words? All 53 men on your roster are alive. They are currently with the team. I don't have much other
we put them to rest. Do they play anymore? Because we had the priest come on here and literally put them to rest.
Here's the thing, brother. They are currently not favored by 14 points against Oakland in betting. 14. Ugh. Like, no other team could be close. Actually, San Francisco is 13.5. But that's pretty bad, man. But yeah, everybody's healthy. Everybody's alive.
They're doing well, not on the football field, but in life. That's an encouraging sign.
They're making the green dollars.
Waking up for another day.
And AC also picked the Ravens in this game. Go ahead.
Oh, we're doing it. We're all picking the same team because I'm going with the Ravens too. But I'll be honest, I was looking at this game. I think if it was reversed, if this was at Cleveland, I might go with the Browns here. But it's not, so I'm not. But who knows? In a few weeks, whenever they play in Cleveland, I might have to go with the Browns. But for now, Ravens played really well against the Bengals team I thought would be about average in the league. I don't know what was going on with the Bengals, but hey, if they can do that again this week, they shouldn't have a problem beating the Browns. I think even if they don't do it this week, they won't have a problem beating the Browns. I'm not expecting much out of this season from the Baltimore Ravens, but it might be last year. I think they started out 3-0, and look what happened to that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a 2-0 start here, and then Baltimore falls back down and is the average team that they are.
First of all, I'm going to make this statement now. The Baltimore Ravens are better than the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Whoa.
Played better this week. They played better this week.
Kev, are they going to prove that this week by beating the Cleveland Browns worse than the Steelers did?
Whoa. This man predicted them to go 3-13 in the preseason.
I did.
Wait. Hold up.
Whoa.
You said that the Baltimore Ravens were going to be 3. How does that go?
They played better this week than the Pittsburgh Steelers did. They did. Can't dispute that.
They did. Yeah,
Can
for
you
sure.
dispute that?
Yeah, for sure they did.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. They played. So I'll give them credit for that.
Those two different
I
statements.
think that this game is going to be closer than you think. I think that the Browns are going to play them really tough. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, but the Browns I think the Ravens win because the Browns don't know how to win yet. 20-17. So I think the Browns will cover the spread on this one, but I think it's going to be close, 20-17.
I just don't see how the Browns are going to be able to score. It's going to be tough. All right. Next game, we have the Buffalo Bills at the Carolina Panthers. Bills got the win over the Jets last week. Panthers got the win over the 49ers. So both teams played pretty lackluster competition. The Bills on the road in Carolina. So Carolina gets a home game this week. I really was impressed from what I saw from the Panthers defense last week. They did a good job against the 49ers, even despite not having a lot of talent on the 49ers sideline. But the Panthers defensive line had a lot of constant pass rush. Their linebackers looked really good. Luke Kuechly looked back. He had an interception in the game. Thomas Davis looked good. Shaq Thompson. Their secondary looks improved with guys like James Bradbury. So that's a really positive sign if you're a Panthers fan, that their defense is back, because that's been their identity when they've been a good team. As for their offense, the most impressive thing about their offense was Christian McCaffrey and their ability to use him in multiple facets of the game. I want to see more Greg Olsen this week. We didn't get much of him last week. I think he will be used this week. And I want to see Cam Newton. I know he's been injured and stuff, but his accuracy was really off in that game. If his accuracy is a little bit better, they should win this one pretty easily. But if Cam Newton has the same sort of performance he did against the 49ers, this game will be closer than many think. The Bills, of course, have Sean McDermott, who is the defensive coordinator for the Panthers in the past. So maybe gives them a little bit of a coaching edge in that regard. But I still see the Panthers winning this at home. It might be a tight game, but I have the Panthers nonetheless.
To bring up the point, Cam Newton's accuracy was completely off last season. So he's been fairly inaccurate for a while. Here's the thing. When it comes to this game, I don't have much faith in either team because the Bills played the worst team in football. No, sorry, the second worst team in football. The Colts have taken them over. And the Panthers played the third worst team in football. So it's like, where does the edge come from? I think it all goes down to the Panthers' defense, that they're all healthy. They all provided big plays. Only gave up 3 points, which, again, not very not going to show up on a lot of high notes because it's one of the worst teams in football. But they still got one of the best defensive forces, and that's what helped them win when they were 15-1 a couple of seasons ago. And if they use McCaffrey well, and I want to see Greg Olsen, like Mitch said, become better, get better, use their players better on the offensive scheme, I think they'll win this one pretty soundly. And AC agrees. The Bills don't have anything to make me go like, this is a team that can surprise people, because they really don't. They didn't really use that many good pieces.
This is how I look at it. I look at it as the strength of the Bills is the strength of the Panthers. The strength of the Bills is that they can run the football. They have a mobile quarterback, and that's the same. Like, this is a mirror image of the same team. I just think like the Panthers defense is a lot more talented than the Bills defense, and that's basically the edge. As well as I think the Panthers have a couple more weapons. They have Olsen, they have McCaffrey, they have Benjamin. Anthony, who do you have?
Well, for me, I was actually really close with using my survivor pick on this game. The Bills did it for me last week. I thought, I could pick the Panthers. They do it. I'm not doing that, though. I'm going to go with a different team. But I am going to go with the Panthers to win this team. I am pretty high on the Panthers this season. I think they're a playoff team again. I was disappointed how they did last week, but a win's a win. They didn't have to start out well last year, to say the least. But this year, I think they could get to a solid 2-0 start. Yeah, it won't be against high-quality teams, but I think overall, they're similar teams. But you break it down position by position, for the most part, I think the Panthers are better all around than the Bills. Add that this is at home. The only worry I really have is you have a GM and a head coach who are part of the Panthers organization for the last few years. So they might have that advantage there, that they know stuff about the Panthers. But regardless, I'm going to go with the Panthers here. I'd be surprised if they lose this one.
I will take the Panthers as well, but I think another close game. I think the 49ers didn't play terribly defensively. I think Cam is going to get off to a slow start. The Buffalo Bills ran the ball pretty well last week against the Jets, although I know that they're a bad team. And I think a guy like McCaffrey and Olsen, I just think just because they have a couple more weapons, it's not going to be a blowout, but I think Carolina will win 23-20.
Okay, so a couple comments here from Jeremy. He says, is that a Fitty Trent lookalike?
Wait.
Talking about Anthony.
Oh,
I don't see it. I don't see it.
I don't know who that is.
You'll know him
That
soon
makes it,
enough.
that makes it better.
Jeremy also says, do I start the Vikings defense at Pittsburgh?
What's this other defense, though, is the question.
Yeah, if you could pick up a defense that has a good matchup, then maybe, like, pick up the Raiders. If you could pick up the Raiders defense that plays the Jets, then maybe you could do that and then, put them on your bench or whatever. But if not, then just keep them in.
I don't think Xavier Rhodes will have a problem stopping Antonio Brown. So
I'm high on them this week. I'll talk about that, but you'll see.
Derek, coach, says Bills offense is too basic. Stop the rush. Bills are done. LOL. Luke and Panthers 24-10.
This guy gets it.
Dean Ambrose, says Panthers 20, Bills 23, the upset of the week.
Nah.
I just have a feeling. I don't know why. All right. Thanks, Dean. The next game is the Arizona Cardinals at the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are dog crap. Their defense is the worst in the league. I said this before. I'll say it again. They have no talent. Like, look at their roster and tell me, can you name 10 players? Like honestly. Offensively, they don't have Andrew Luck, and that keeps them back from being a pretty decent offense. Their offensive line isn't good enough to, provide the time for a not below average quarterback. It's going to be Jacoby Brissett, right?
Yes.
So Jacoby Brissett's going to start. I can't see him, even though I like Jacoby. He's too inexperienced. He's got talent, but he's too inexperienced. He's better than Tolzien. He has more talent. He's athletically better. He has a better arm, all that stuff. But against the Cardinals, they played fairly decent, especially their defense against the Lions. Like, Carson Palmer was awful. Hopefully Carson Palmer can at least be average versus the worst defense in the NFL.
Then we have some problems if he's not.
Right? The Cardinals, even though without David Johnson, I think they'll win. The Colts might provide somewhat of a fight just because if the Cardinals offense starts off slow because they're without David Johnson and Carson Palmer is playing really bad, it might be a little close, but the Cardinals defense for me is enough for me to take them.
So I got to write down everybody's predictions here, and I just put down everybody's Cardinals. I hope you're okay with that. This is I didn't get to really watch this game, the Rams and the Colts last week, because I was on the road about to go to the game. But then I watched the highlights, and that was about 30 seconds. And I realized this team is awful. As we all knew, their defense is the worst in the NFL. No Andrew Luck equals no offensive steam, no emotion, no passion, nothing that's strong. Nothing to be like, man, this is a team that could at least win a couple of games without Andrew Luck. They desperately need him, and drafting has been a big problem with that. But then you have the Cardinals, who played a very a solid team that I really like in the Lions, and had it not been for Carson Palmer's many fuck-ups, I think this team could have had a chance to win the game. They only lost by 13. So I think the Cardinals are going to struggle because they don't have David Johnson for 2 to 3 months, and that's going to hurt them down the line. But against, in my opinion, the worst team in football, I don't think you really can I don't think you can lose here. I got the Cardinals, and so does AC.
All right, so I was not high on the Cardinals coming into the season. I think I had them at 7 wins, and I felt like that was too much. David Johnson being out sure doesn't help. But then you look at the Colts. Man, the Colts, without Andrew Luck, this is a bad team. I mean, Andrew Luck, he could carry this team, but without him, wow, they are honestly one of the worst teams. It's like, I've heard people say it's like the year Peyton Manning was out for the year. That's how bad this Colts team is. without Andrew Luck. And
honestly, I'd argue that they're worse.
I think that's I think they might be. It's bad. Like bad. Oh man, and I keep for some reason, like in my fantasy drafts, I look at it and I'm like, well, T.Y. Hilton's good, I'll take him. Frank Gore, he's like the only remaining 3 down back, and I always get stuck with Colts. They didn't do well for me last week, but I still won. But I digressed. I look at the Colts. They're bad. They're bad. So are the Cardinals, but the Cardinals are a little better. So I'll go with the Cardinals.
There's the analysis right there.
One team's not as bad as the other.
Well, first of all, someone better remind Chuck Pagano who they are playing this week, not the 49ers.
I want to credit what did you say? I want to credit Sean McVay and the San Francisco 49ers.
49ers, yeah. So hopefully he gets that right. You know what? I'm honestly having a tough time. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to pick the Colts. I am. I'm going to do it.
I'm not finishing last in picks this week.
I just think these are two terrible teams, but I actually have a feeling Jacoby Brissett might provide a little bit of a spark. This team came off a very humiliating defeat, and Chuck Pagano will be also a topic of my video for Saturday. So Bruce Arians, I think the Colts will pull this one off. I just think that they'll play inspired after getting beaten so bad. I'm not necessarily saying that they're the worst. They're one of the worst teams, but they might pull off the upset here. I'm taking the Colts, and we have to be different. We've all been the same so far. I'm going to take the Colts.
Okay. Next game, Tennessee Titans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have nothing to say about that pick. This one is actually tough for me. The Titans last week disappointed. They were at home. They had the chance to show out, show off, and claim their spot as a team that is here. But the Raiders took it to them and pretty much controlled that game pretty handily. So it has me a little concerned going to Jacksonville, playing a team that performed the way they did against Houston. This defense is legit as it gets. Again, 10 sacks last week. The defense line's vicious. Calais Campbell playing great. Their corners are very good. It's going to be a difficult game for the Titans, but I think they will pull it out. I just think the difference in this game, of course, Allen Robinson out for the year for the Jaguars, and they have Blake Bortles. So I'm going to head with the Titans. I think, if they keep to that ground game a little bit more and they get that going a little bit more successfully than they did against Oakland, they'll control the game a little bit more, and that's the way they're going to win it. I think the Titans defense will be able to take away the Jaguars' one-dimensional offense, and that is running the football. I think Marcus Mariota just makes a couple more plays than Blake Bortles, and that's the way it's going to go. I just think the Titans are slightly more talented. Jacksonville has a great defense, don't get me wrong, and they have Leonard Fournette, who played really good in week 1, but I got to go with the Titans here.
The line for this game is interesting. It's only 2 points in favor of Tennessee. Hey, Kev, can you go on mute real quick? Sorry, you're in the mall, so it's just But, yeah, when I saw the Jaguars last week, I was expecting, hey, Blake Bortles is pretty garbage, right? I don't think they're going to win this game. And then they won 27-9, pretty much based on their defense. Blake Bortles, I think, threw for 21 times, and he only completed 11 passes, and they still won by 18 points. So I don't know how that works, but they do have a really good defense. Tennessee, who I thought was going to have a really good victory at the start against another solid team I think is going to make the playoffs, did not really impress me all that much. However, I'm picking Tennessee just based on the fact that I think they are the stronger team. I think, like Mitch said, they have a very one-dimensional offense, and if they can pick that apart with the defensive system, they will do wonders. Their receivers did very well. I think that's one of the more underrated things about them right now. So they did a very good job using all the receivers besides Eric Decker. They did not use him very well. But You had Rashad Matthews going off. You had Corey Davis going off. I think this is a solid team that people need to give more than one chance. You know, they're playing a very solid team in the Raiders. So the Jaguars, really solid on defense. I give them all the credit in the world for beating the Super Bowl winning Houston Texans, according to Kevel. But I got a feeling that I got to stick to my gut that the Tennessee Titans will win this game. And so AC agrees.
Wow, I feel like we're all going to have the same record at the end of this week. Because
not with Kev.
Except
Yeah,
me, I will be different.
Hey, you shot yourself in the foot by picking the 49ers too last week. You want to go ahead and do that again?
Oof.
No.
But the Titans, I don't think they're a double-digit win team, and they kind of showed it last week. This week, it kind of pains me that I'm not picking the Jaguars after the way they played last week, to a lesser extent how the Titans played. Maybe I'll change it right before the game.
That's not how this works.
No, I might, but I'm going to go with the Titans.
Okay, so
Right.
Explain to me how you in the chat, somebody in the chat, Hansman says, you guys say Jaguars, it's Jaguars. Like you can't tell me pronunciations in text. It doesn't
Jaguars.
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 I don't fucking
Jaguar.
It's like what's another word? Oh, tomato.
Jaguars.
What does
Tomato
Kev got? Who does Kev got?
You know,
tomato.
I think that this game, I would, if you're going against the spread, probably I would take Jacksonville, to be honest with you, because I think they showed a lot. But they haven't won at home 4 of the last 5. They've lost at home. Their home environment is the worst in the NFL. We know that. And I think, and really, ultimately, what it's coming down to, I was shockingly disappointed at how bad Tennessee looked last week overall until late in the game. Surprised by that. I'm higher on the Titans than Anthony is. Obviously, because of that, I'm picking Tennessee. But it's going to be a really close game. Credit Jacksonville; they've got heart.
This is one game that I definitely will be watching, and the number one thing I'm going to watch is to see if they if they allow and they kind of try and push the ball down the field. Because last game, I mean, Marcus Mariota was too content for taking the short stuff. He wasn't aggressive enough, and that kept them and prevented them, honestly, from winning that game against Oakland. Like, too many check downs, not enough down the field. And usually I'm the guy to say, short passing game, but you got to throw the ball down the field to beat some good teams.
And yet you're the highest man when it comes to Alex Smith.
Just kidding.
All right. Let's continue on. Speaking of Alex Smith, we have the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be interesting to see where AC goes in this game, but the Eagles on the road in Kansas City with a huge win over the Patriots in New England. Not many teams can say they've done that. They're back home with one of the best home fields in the league. The Eagles with a very impressive win over the Washington Redskins. Defense looked really good. They did lose Ronald Darby during the game, which will hurt them. Especially this week, trying to contain Tyreek Hill is no easy task. I think the Eagles defense will be better prepared than the Patriots. I think their defensive line will disrupt the Chiefs' run game a little bit, forcing Alex Smith to do his thing. But I actually think Alex Smith will have a good game in this one. I have enough faith in that offensive line for Kansas City and Alex Smith to make the right decisions down the field for them to score some a decent amount of points. And on the flip side, Carson Wentz makes some amazing plays, escaping pressure, getting away from pressure, throwing it down the field. Their offense looked decent, but they're too one-dimensional for me not to say that the Chiefs' defense won't, slow them down, because the Eagles are a passing team. That's what they're good at. Their run game is not very good. Blunt did have his moments, but not a lot of yardage, not a lot of production from them. And Doug Peterson is, has the same scheme as Andy Reid. So I don't think that's going to favor him in any way. Andy Reid basically taught this guy everything he knows. I don't think it's a good matchup coaching-wise in this one. I think the Chiefs will take it. It might be a little close, but I think the Chiefs will take this one. Go ahead, guys.
AC has decided to go with his Eagles on this game. I will not agree. Look, they played impressively. I will give them credit. Carson Wentz, I think, had the most underrated game for a quarterback this week. I think Sam Bradford had a great game, very surprising. But I think when it looks at the quarterbacks that we saw this week and how production went, I think Carson Wentz had one of the most underrated at the quarterback position this week. That being said, when Alex Smith goes out there and throws bombs, and Tyreek Hill has his game, and Kareem Hunt has his game, and Kelsey was non-existent. If they get him in the game, watch out. They still have a great defense without Eric Berry, which depressing to see. I know that's going to take a piece away from them. They still got Marcus Peters. They still got Justin Houston. They still got that front seven I think is very well put together, and then their secondary is very good. I want to see the Eagles. Well, as a Cowboys fan, I don't want to. But as a football fan, I want to see this team be as good as as I've seen them, at least to last week. And they're growing to be better, and I think next season they'll be a playoff team. However, I think they're going to be too outmatched by the high offense that came of the Chiefs last week against the Patriots, who I still think are one of the best teams in football. And the Chiefs are just going to be outmatching the Eagles too much. So I have the Chiefs. AC has his Eagles.
I want to see if Alex Smith continues to push that ball down the field. And also, I want to throw in this one. Another matchup to look for is Marcus Peters and Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey had a tough one with Norman, so this week he has one with Peters.
That's a good one.
Yeah, the Chiefs, I'm pretty high on them. I expect them to be a playoff team, and more than just a playoff team. I think they might go somewhat far in the playoffs this year. But they had a good win week one. I know none of us really expected that one to happen, but they won week one. To me, I just cannot see the Chiefs now coming home and losing to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they should have no problem winning this game. Eagles played a close one. I think that was kind of a bad call at the end. I don't think that was a fumble by Kirk Cousins. I think that was an incompletion. But regardless, the Eagles won their home game. They won their first game too. But yeah, I have to go with the Chiefs here. I think they have the better overall team. Well, I don't know if they necessarily have the better overall quarterback. Alex Smith sure played like it last week. I don't think he'll play like that again this week, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs regardless.
I'm going to go with the Chiefs here in a good win, 7 to 10 points. I do like a lot of what I saw from the Chiefs. I do think Alshon Jeffrey will have a better game because he's a prime receiver. I think this will be a higher scoring game. I'm looking at a 34-24. I think the Chiefs will be playing with a lot of confidence coming off that win against New England and in front of that home crowd. But I look at a high-scoring game, 34-24 for the Chiefs.
Okay, let's go to the comments section. We have a few comments here. Jeremy says, first, Coach says 13-10 Zona. Both teams are not good. Jeremy says Saints 30, Patriots 27, pulling another upset. Dean says Titans 24, Jags 10. Reason Blake Bortles.
Yep.
As you guys say Jaguars and not Jaguars. Dean says Eagles 17, Kansas City 14. So that's another upset. And I don't know what his name is, but I'm going to say Shin. Okay. Shin says bold prediction. Browns go 11-5 and make the playoffs.
Oh, God. Oh.
That is bold.
Oh, that doesn't even describe it. I'm falling off the chair. Oh.
Okay, as you're falling off the chair, we're going to go to the next game.
Bold.
Fat.
The next
11-4 to finish the season. Wow.
The Minnesota Vikings
Yes.
are going to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Both teams 1-0. Vikings, I would say, had the more impressive win at home against the New Orleans Saints. The Steelers on the road against Cleveland, it was a much closer game than a lot of people thought it was going to be. Steelers still a team that a lot of people think is going to go far in the playoffs. The Vikings, I picked to go to the playoffs. So this is going to be a really good game. Vikings have a solid defense. They showed that last week. The key to this game might be if the Vikings can get a pass rush with that front four like they did last week. The Steelers, though, they need to get back to committing to that run game. That is their game. Because this game is in Pittsburgh, I'm sorry, Anthony, but I got to go with the Steelers. I think they're going to bounce back, have a better performance in this one. And there's something about the home road splits with Ben Roethlisberger. He's just a much better player at home. They have a good atmosphere there. It's a difficult place to play. I don't think Sam Bradford will have quite the game he did last week against the Steelers defense. I want to see how TJ Watt, if he can follow up his great performance in week 1. I think the Steelers defense is decent. A lot better than the Saints defense. I do think this game is going to be very, very close. It might come down to the last drive or two, but I think the Steelers will walk away with this game, mostly because it's at home.
I think it's time for an upset. I'm picking the Vikings in this one.
Yes.
Here's the thing.
Yes.
Here's the thing. Last week, I was very impressed with what the Vikings delivered on Monday Night Football. You had Sammy Biscuits, one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the league. Go 27 for 32, 346 yards.
Dylan, I'd like to correct you. The most accurate quarterback in NFL history, Sam Bradford.
Okay.
True. Hall of Famer, first ballot.
If we go off of last season, maybe. In college, yes. 27 of 32 last week, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. The best quarterback performance last week. He played a stunning game. I get it. It was against the Saints, who have a top 3 bottom defense. But he's still going to be accurate against multiple different teams. And I don't think the Steelers have the greatest of defenses. I think they're pretty close to middle of the pack. They do have some good pieces. TJ Watt had a phenomenal game last week. I don't think the interception should go on his record, though, because that was thrown to literally nobody. But besides that, he still played a great game. They impressed me in some parts, but they were really struggling against this Browns team. And then you come over to Minnesota, or you're playing against Minnesota. Their defense stood out tremendously. Drew Brees, sometimes, even with a very shitty defense on his side, can go out there and have an impressive game on his own. That wasn't the case. And I get it. Pittsburgh is a very high team. I even have them going to the AFC Championship game. But I see them struggling against some of the better teams. And I think this is a test where they're going to get upset. I have that feeling, and plus, look at the predictions we have this week. It's very safe. So this is the team that I was coming into this week like, man, this is one I want to put on the radar. I think the Vikings will upset the Steelers, even though Pittsburgh is home. AC does not agree with me, though. He has the Steelers.
I can't wait till Kev picks the Vikings.
You better. But for me, the Minnesota Vikings, I was happy on Monday. I hate Monday Night Football, but man, I enjoyed my Monday. It was fun watching the Vikings just be a good offensive team. I haven't seen that in years. It's wow. Brett Favre, yeah. That's the last time a Vikings quarterback was Offensive Player of the Week.
This is not 7 years ago. Brett Favre and Sidney Rice, baby. Let's go.
I was watching. They had a clip of those two. From the game where they beat the Cowboys.
Now you're bringing up bad memories.
I went to that game too. For me, that was fun.
Oh yeah. That's very difficult for me, but
I can imagine. But now the Vikings today. This is a game I look at. I think they can easily win. I think Xavier Rhodes won't have a problem at least slowing down Antonio Brown at minimum. I'm saying slowing down at minimum. I'm being generous by saying that. Last year he was shutting down top wide receivers like it was nothing. Julio Jones, Odell Beckham, it's like they disappeared from the game. That defense is going to have no problem slowing down that offense. Le'Veon Bell didn't do that well last week. I'm sure Ben Roethlisberger will throw some interceptions. Offensively, they're playing against a better defense, but the way they played last week shows me even if they don't play it as well, they can still be a good offense. And it pains me so much, but I have to go with the Steelers. What? I think if this was another team, I feel like I'm a biased fan.
The way you just opened, that was a Russo swerve. You were like, the Vikings defense gonna shut down the Steelers.
I think the Vikings
that and other thing. And now you're like, Steelers. Why are the Steelers gonna win?
Bro, this is a Kev situation.
My main reason I'm doing it is I can't be a biased fan and pick the Vikings on paper. The Steelers seem like the better team.
Didn't you pick the Saints last week?
No, you picked the Vikings.
Oh,
I picked
okay.
the Vikings.
No,
and
but first off, AC
kinda
picked
killed
the Eagles against everybody. I picked the Cowboys against everybody. Yeah, no.
I just can't do it. I can't. I rather give the Vikings a worse record than what they actually get.
I mean, if it was like the Patriots, all right, I get you. You know,
I would like to say this. I think that Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen is the most underrated wide receiver duo in the NFL.
I mean, when you're catching
Are you
19
stealing
balls,
my notes? Are you stealing my notes?
when you're catching 19,
No, bro,
receptions-
you're in a mall in Vancouver. I'm in Toronto. So.
bro, he's gonna pick the Vikings. All right.
Kills
I
me.
am picking the Vikings. Actually. I am, and here's why.
Yeah.
Here is
Because he hates Big Ben. That's why.
why. Well, that's. Let's put that aside. First half, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. Cleveland had the ball for the first quarter for well over 10 minutes. And so it comes clear to me that an efficient offense can control the clock. And the Vikings are not going to be throwing for 300 yards necessarily, but Dalvin Cook is going to create a lot of matchup problems. Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen will have big games. And I don't know what Pittsburgh was doing last week, but they weren't running the ball. They were passing a lot. I don't know what their philosophy is. I'm a little confused offensively what their identity is, what their philosophy is, so I am concerned about that. And I just don't think T.J. Watt is going to go off the way he did last week against Cleveland, against Minnesota. I think the teams are going to start scheming against them, have some problems. And I see the Vikings winning. It's going to be close. 26-20 Vikings win, and Dalvin Cook has a big day in Pittsburgh.
So the non-Vikings fan doesn't, they agrees with me, and the Vikings fan doesn't. I don't.
Thank you guys for picking up. That's all I can say about that.
Hey, 2 of 5, not bad. You could have made it yourself 3
I'm
of 2.
happy with that. This was a game that people have always chalked up as a loss for the Vikings. Next week they play the Buccaneers. Ugh.
Yeah, that might be difficult. I want to see what they do this week, though.
But it's at home. That's how I am. If they can win this week, well, I'll be talking differently about the Vikings next week.
Ooh, okay. So let's get to the Buccaneers. Chicago Bears are playing the Buccaneers. Yes, the Chicago Bears had a really good game against Atlanta. They were as close as it gets. 4 plays within the 10-yard line. You know, their running back duo looks really impressive with Cohen and Howard, but they have no receivers. And the thing about this is like an unfair advantage for the Bucs because the Bucs have film on the Chicago Bears and they don't have film on the Bucs. So this is a really, really unfair matchup. The Bucs are at home. Jameis Winston is going to come out firing. Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans is going to be a big game for them. I think they're going to pass the ball with success, and I think they're going to win this one pretty handily. I think because this is at home, Chicago won't have that advantage of, being at home like they did against Atlanta, and they're not playing a dome team. So I think the Bucs are going to win this one.
I feel bad for the Bears. They were close to winning against the Falcons. If they had not let Austin Hooper get so fucking wide open, they could have won that game. It was ridiculous. Like, you could have filled a whole 11 people in that space. It was ridiculous. But the Buccaneers, they didn't play last week. It's weird to say that, but there's nothing to give evidence as to I think this team can improve or whatever. I have high expectations. We all have high expectations. I expected this team to go 12-4. So with that in mind, I'm definitely picking a 12-4 team over a 3-13 team. So Bucs over Bears. You tried your best, Bears, but it's not going to happen. It's definitely not going to happen this week.
Oh yeah, this is an easy matchup here. Like, you played close against the Falcons. Well, get ready. You're playing against a better team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No way the Buccaneers lose this one. I'd be shocked. This isn't my.
Is this your Survivor?
This isn't Survivor. But I think the Buccaneers. I picked them to go 12-4 too. I got plenty of weeks to pick the Buccaneers.
That's true.
I'm not going to use them here. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers, though. Easy matchup. I'd be shocked. I know I've said that about a few games. I'd be shocked if the Buccaneers lose this one. I'm super high on them this year.
Kev's on me.
Hit that button there. Hit that button there. I'm also picking the Bucs 21-0 shutout. I do agree with Mitch about the unfair advantage me, but that's reality. I think Bucks come out and dominate. Don't touch Tariq Cohen this week. I don't know. Do you touch Tariq Cohen as your fantasy pick this week? That's a question for Mitch. And start him, sit him.
Yes, it is. Good plug there, Kevel. I appreciate that. Anyways, let's get to my survivor pick. The New York Jets go to Oakland to play the Raiders.
This is easy, bro.
I got my survivor pick, the Raiders. The Raiders, they're playing at home. This is one of the last seasons that they'll have a home opener. They're not losing this game. Marshawn Lynch coming home. It's going to be a great atmosphere. I was really, really, really impressed with the maturity in the Raiders last week. I will admit sooner rather than later that I was wrong about the Raiders this season. Their defense looked really good. They impressed me a lot, especially their defensive line and what they did against the run game. Of course, the Jets, that's their strength offensively. If they have one, it's their run game, I guess. So the Raiders will slow that down. I think Khalil Mack will have an absolutely massive game after having a quiet game last week. Mari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, too much to handle for these DBs. The offensive line is too good. Just an absolute mismatch all across the board for the Raiders. Derek Carr shaping up to have another MVP-like season. I'm going with the Raiders.
I see the score in the air, and I see it's going to be 42-3 Raiders.
Whew.
This is going to be a decimation of an NFL team and a sixth grade football team. There's nothing about the Jets that says competent in the NFL. The Raiders, they played well against the Titans team I have high hopes on. Not everybody does, but I have high hopes on. The Jets are currently not favored by 14 points coming into this game, and that's in the betting world. You know, it takes a lot to be unfavored by 2 touchdowns. So, with that in mind, I have to. Without it, this would have been my survivor pick, but I'm not allowed to pick the Raiders this week. Can I get a restart? Yeah, there's just no question. When Anthony says there's no doubt, there is no doubt the Raiders win. I will leave the channel if the Raiders lose this one. That's how much I'm betting on this game. Can I get a survivor pick? All right, continue.
I hope the Jets win.
Jets lose.
I'm gonna have to third you guys. How did the Jets? See, you know what? There might be an argument, but the Jets lost by 9 to the Buffalo Bills. I think they're gonna be a bad team. I wouldn't be surprised if they're picking in the top 5 this year.
Dude, their own guy tackled them.
I would be surprised if they weren't picking in the top 2.
No, I'm talking about the Bills.
Oh, okay.
The Bills, they're bad. And they still lost by 9 to the Bills. So if they lose by 9 to the Bills, you're telling me the Oakland Raiders is going to be closer, or they might even beat them? No way. This is an easy matchup. The Raiders win this one. Let's say by 21. Is this
your survivor pick?
No, this isn't my survivor pick.
Oh.
What?
No, I got...
What is your survivor pick?
He's got someone else.
We'll get to it.
I know exactly who you're picking now. Yep, I know who it's going to be.
We'll see.
Okay, this is what the Jets have. All right, one sec.
Nothing.
One sec.
No chance in hell.
All right.
Yes.
Go ahead, Kev.
There you go.
Oh, hallelujah. Let us all gather in prayer with our thoughts again to the terrible New York Jets, who, in spite of 53 players, and yes, as Dylan mentioned, they are living and alive. They wear green and play terrible football. It is an embarrassment for the city of New York. Week after week, week after week, week after week. But we also reflect on the Oakland Raiders and their last season in Oakland as they throw beer bottles, scum, garbage, and anything else that they will find, anyone that does not wear a Raiders uniform. We think of both of them today and reflect and rest. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
And 2 middle fingers to that from Marshawn Lynch.
Raiders by a lot.
Okay, next game. We have the Miami Dolphins at the LA Superchargers. This is my team, of course, the adopted Chargers. They lost last week. I said that I wouldn't be surprised if they lost, but they should have won.
No.
It was a blocked field goal. They had all the momentum, bro.
Young Wei Koo, young
Philip
Ho
Rivers, as Kev put it, did Philip Rivers things. Thank you, Kev, for doing the recap. It was a great comeback. Keenan Allen actually made it through the whole game. Congratulations. Their defense, Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram look good. They need to put together a full game, though. I think they will here. They're at home, their first ever game in that tiny stadium. They're going to show out. The Dolphins, yes. No tape on the Dolphins yet. And the Dolphins might be a decent team. But I look at the Chargers, and I see this defensive line, the secondary. I think they're going to force some turnovers like they did in that fourth quarter against the Broncos. They're playing Jay Cutler. Can't wait for a couple pick sixes here. The Chargers are going to win. Let's get on that bandwagon, baby. Chargers to the playoffs. Let's go.
All right. Let's actually count our blessings for the fact we will never, and I mean, well, I hope never have to listen to the Monday Night Football commentary of Rex Ryan, the woman that I can't remember, and the guy that doesn't speak English.
That guy was he baked?
No, he didn't. English is like his third language. I learned this the other day.
Oh, okay.
Was that the guy who's having the time of his life?
Yeah.
He was
Vance Joseph.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, look, ESPN, I understand you want to try something. Don't put inexperienced guys that don't speak English on television, okay? And then you got Rex Ryan in the booth. That's not helpful. And then you got this woman here that was very degrading on my ears. Regardless, never have to hear them again, hopefully, because that was the second Monday Night Football game. With this matchup, I'm not very high on the Dolphins. I have them at, I believe, 6-10, 7-9, somewhere around there. I think Cutler is terrible in every way. And the Chargers, while I don't think I'm nearly as high as Mitch on this team, nearly as high, they did impress me in some ways last week. Philip Rivers continues to get fucked over because the last 10 games they've been within 7 points. They are 1-9 in the last 10 games. That's awful. You got to feel bad for the man, Philip Rivers. He does not have the Eli Manning help there. So within mind, I feel bad, but I have to pick the Chargers here because I think, one, they're the stronger team. Two, they impressed me a lot in that game. And if Keenan Allen can play for 16 games, I mean, they got something there that the Dolphins don't. That's risky. That's very risky. But I got to go with the Chargers here. I don't have much hope on the Dolphins. I'm not picking them very moron, so I'm just going to tell you that.
Let's start by saying this. Maybe ESPN's logic was, if we already have one overrated head coach as a commentator on Monday Night Football, let's try doing another.
Gruden's like a million times better compared to this goof. I'm sorry.
I don't like him as a commentator or as a head coach.
You come over to the right side and he pulls up a split 7, and I really like what this guy can bring to the table, man. Oh, Jesus Christ.
But Tony Romo,
are you telling me you didn't like it that one time he brought a smoothie?
That was hilarious.
He made a smoothie live on Monday Night Football?
Because it was literally the last game of the season. It was trash. It was like 42 to something. I actually have a Rex Ryan autograph right back here, so I shouldn't be trashing them. But it's terrible. It was awful. Continue.
Oh, that's great. But, oh yeah, Dolphins, Chargers. Your Chargers blew it last week, and I'm not picking them this week. I'm not siding with you two this time. I'm not picking the Chargers. I'm going to go with the Dolphins. My logic behind it, the Dolphins have had an extra week to prepare because of a hurricane. They've been on the West Coast, so you don't have to worry too much about that travel. They've had a place to stay. The Chargers, I don't think really have a home field advantage. They're playing more. It's so small where they're playing. This is their first year in LA. People aren't showing up to the Rams games. Why are they going to show?
Well, no one should
Because
be
the
showing
Chargers are exciting.
Well, the Chargers are.
You're going to
something.
hear it, Anthony, when the Chargers win this game.
I'm actually going to have to dispute you on this one, Anthony.
Last week I picked them to lose. This week I'm going to pick them to lose. I don't
Is
know
this
who
your
they're playing
survivor?
next week. This is not my survivor.
No, I know exactly where he's going for Survivor. This man.
You know what? I want you
Okay, I know
when we
where
get to that game. I want you to predict if it's my Survivor pick or not.
I know which one it is.
I know exactly what.
Unless you're just dumb. We'll see. Kev.
It happens to have it happens to have a 4 somewhere in the game. I'm just. Go ahead, Kev.
We'll see.
Hello there. It is actor. Actor is here. I am here to interrupt here. I need to say something about Jay Cutler. You must act like you are a quarterback. You show no emotion at any time of anything. You sit there all boring. You are a boring human being. You need to act like you care about things, like anything. Act like you care about a hot dog. Act like you care about things. Remember the time in school when you had a girlfriend? Remember when you had a girlfriend? You had a big crush. Ooh, remember that? You loved someone? Show that emotion. Show any emotion of some kind. My gosh, you're a boring human being, Jacob. A boring human being.
I feel bad for Anthony because he has literally no idea what any of this means. It's a super in detail with the wrestling crew, and he brought it over to NFL.
The actor, always a pleasure for the actor. I agree. Jay Cutler needs to show some emotion.
I just can't believe the actor just appears out of nowhere.
How did he get to the mall?
Well, there's doors everywhere in a mall. You know. Remember a couple
He tracked you down or what?
He tracks me down everywhere. I cannot pick at any time. Can I pick a team that has Jay Cutler, who is going to the broadcast booth to the back to the quarterback? I understand Adam Gates is a good coach. I understand they have some weapons. I just think this team was so overrated last year. They were lucky to get into the playoffs. I think the Chargers win this one going away. Going away, 28-0.
Wow.
There was a lot I liked about the Chargers. They showed a lot of athleticism. Look out for Travis Benjamin. He had a really strong game late in the game against Denver. I think he'll have a big game. Antonio Gates will be refreshed. And that defense actually played pretty okay, created some turnovers. There was lots to like about the Chargers last week.
Oh, and also Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. That will definitely win the game against this team.
Who did Adam pick?
He picked the Chargers.
Okay.
All by myself.
All by myself. Yeah.
Jeremy said, bold prediction 2. The championship games were in week 1. The Packers versus the Seahawks and the Chiefs versus the Patriots.
I can't really dispute him that hard. I would probably put 1 or 2 teams in differently, but not a bad number.
Seahawks. Not the Seahawks.
Kev's
They're not that good.
Dean says Pittsburgh 27, Minnesota 20.
Ooh.
Jeremy says I had Adam Thielen, the biggest steal of the draft. Dean says the Bears have no chance. No chance in hell. Dean also says we might have to call the police for this murder. Austin says this is white AF.
I'm half Mexican, so yeah, 3.5.
Jeremy says Jamal Adams, though. Jeremy also says he's very high on the Chargers. Dean says Dolphins. I don't give a about the score. Again, Shin says, to explain myself, the remaining losses I see on Cleveland's schedule are the Packers, Titans, Vikings, and Steelers again. Reason being, their schedule is full of dumpster fire teams. This is, again, the guy that said that they'd go 11-5 and make the playoffs.
Let me pull this up. I you know what? I'll give my answer to this when I go look at the schedule. But I just have a feeling that's wrong.
Okay, let's get to the next game, which is the Dallas Cowboys on the road in Denver. Denver, 2 big games at home in a row. Interesting. This is going to be a very, very entertaining game. The Cowboys on the road with a big win over the Giants. Big momentum boost for them. They really needed that game against the Giants. The Denver Broncos really needed to finish that game off against the Chargers. Their defense looked strong, at least for 3 quarters. Their offense looked better than I thought it would be. I always said that the biggest weakness of the Broncos last year was they didn't have C.J. Anderson. They didn't have a running attack. This year, it seems that they do have that. The Cowboys are fairly good at containing that. This game is going to be really close. I see some great matchups like Dez Bryant, Aqib Talib, that front of the Broncos versus the Cowboys run game. The Cowboys also with their offensive line versus Von Miller. This is going to be a really, really good game. And then on the opposite side of the ball, how are those Cowboys corners going to fare against Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders? It's going to be interesting. They had an impressive performance last week, but a lot of it was due to their pass rush, surprisingly. Will the Broncos offensive line fold, or will they play a better game? It's going to be interesting. I actually had this as one of the Cowboys' losses because it's in Denver. I'm going to stick to that. I think it could go either way. But I just think the Broncos defense will make a couple plays. And I think Simeon really impressed me last week. And I think, this will be one of those games where the Cowboys corners are just a little bit outmatched by the receivers of the other team. So I think the Broncos are going to win, maybe like 24-21.
Oh, y'all are haters. So
just me.
No, first of all, Adam also picked the Broncos this week, which I was kind of cheesed about that because this man will always pick the Eagles and never the Cowboys unless if it's a certain favorable matchup. But, okay, I was at the game last week. I got to see it up close in person. And what I saw was the Cowboys surprisingly did very well on defense. I was not, even as a Cowboys fan, was not expecting them to do as well on defense as they did last week. They played a Giants team, kept them to 3 points. I get it. They didn't have OBJ, but you're still stopping Sterling Shepard. Brandon Marshall caught 1 pass. They had 2 passes of over 12 yards. And Eli Manning, who I think is very, 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 very overrated, had a very not so good game.
I forgot to say this, but I said this on the recap. Simeon is better than Manning.
Okay. I don't know how I feel about that still. But the offense of the Cowboys still very strong, still very talented. There are some really great matchups that I'm looking forward to. Like Mitch said, I want to see how Dez Bryant favors, if he can get some more receptions. Cole Beasley had a surprisingly not well he didn't get as many receptions as I thought he was going to because he was number 1 receiver for Dak Prescott last year. He did make that one incredible catch, but that's beside the point. The defense, I think, is going to be very well put together. There's going to be some nice options for them. For Denver, I like what they brought the first 3 quarters. I didn't like what they brought the 4th quarter. Trevor Siemian looked like a competent quarterback, which is something they desperately need. And C.J. Anderson was looking good. So I want to see if the Dallas team, who was number 1 in run defense last year, can bring it to the table this time around. And it's going to be an interesting matchup. I still have the Cowboys winning. I know they're in Denver. That's probably the biggest reason as to why I would pick Denver in the situation. But I'm high as to what the Cowboys gave and surprised a lot of people. And if they put out another performance where they let down less than 17 points, look out for this defense. It's going to be one of the more underrated of the year.
You're high on the Cowboys, but are you mile high? That's the question.
I'm just going to walk out. No, I'm kidding.
Anthony,
Mitch is here all night. Try the view.
He is. But, the one thing I learned about the Cowboys is this. The last full season Tony Romo played, what was their road record? It was 8-0. The Cowboys, for some reason, are a good road team, but home can be a different story.
Yes.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys on the road against the Denver. Even though I'm kind of high on the Broncos, a lot higher than I expected I'd be on them, I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. They're a good team. Denver's a good team, but I think the Cowboys are just as good, if not better. I think they have what it takes to win on the road. I trust Dak and the offense/defense of the Cowboys more than I do Simeon and the offense/defense of the Broncos.
Yeah, this guy gets him.
There's some things I'm really was impressed with Denver overall with their defense, and I have Denver at a better record than Dallas as this goes on. But I did say Trevor Siemian would be one of the most improved players in the NFL, and I'm going to stick to that. But here's my concern with Denver is that I don't think that that receiving core was all that great last week. Although I don't think the Giants were all that awesome as an offense, Dallas's defense played pretty well. And I just look at Ezekiel Elliott being a guy that suspension, not got away, whatever, how I worded that, whatever. But he's able to play. I think he's going to be rejuvenated because of it. He had a very efficient game. Prescott was able to find a number of different receivers. They're going to control the ball enough this week. I think Dallas is going to pull off a close 23-20 win over Denver.
Yeah.
So I will go with Dallas as well. There's a lot to like about Denver, but I'm going to just have a hunch about Dallas this week.
Okay, so Mitch and Adam are the haters this week. All right. Let's prove them wrong, boys.
Okay. Let's get to the next game, which is the Washington Redskins at the greatest team ever, the LA Rams. After their shellacking of the Indianapolis Colts, they pretty much won the Super Bowl. I don't know if you guys heard. The Washington Redskins had a disappointing loss to the Philadelphia Eagles at home. They had some positives, though. I think Terrell Pryor was definitely a positive. I think Kirk Cousins had his moments. He's just a tough man. I mean, that guy was scrambling around getting clocked. Their defense looked better, especially in the front seven against the run, and that's definitely going to come in handy against the LA Rams. I have the Redskins winning this game. Just can't trust the Rams against anybody but lower competition. Rams sure have a pretty good defense. They have some weapons on the outside, but I can't trust Jared Goff against a pretty good defense, a pretty good team. I think, Sammy Watkins will be taken away with Josh Norman out there. I think Kirk Cousins and his targets will be more in sync this week, where last week they were a little bit off. I think Kirk Cousins makes some of those throws he missed last week. And, I expect Jamison Crowder to have a bounce-back game in this one, and I think the Redskins will take this one. Probably in a close game, but I think they'll take it.
Guys, the Rams are favored by minus 2.5 this week. Did anybody expect that against any other team but the Colts? I surely don't think anybody did. Here's the thing. Redskins, last couple of seasons, especially last year, struggled in the first 3 games of the season. They were not as complete. I think this team is a team that takes a while, and I mean a couple of weeks, to get their focus. They were 1-2 last year. I got to go Rams. It's weird, right? I want to be that weird guy to pick the Rams and be cliche, and I'm okay with everybody else.
Are you saying you don't like that?
No, I'm cool with it. I don't give a fuck. But here's the thing. I want to pick the Redskins because I think they're the more complete team. The Rams defense showed out a lot, but it was also against the Colts team. I don't know. I'm conflicted. I'm still thinking about it in my head, but I have said it, and I'm going to put it out there. I've got the Rams. I'm okay taking the L on this one if it does happen, though. I'll take the W in the Cowboys one.
Okay, I look at this game. I think the Redskins were robbed last week. I think they should have at least been given the chance. I don't think Kirk Cousins fumbled. I think that was an incompletion. But they did lose, and the Rams just destroyed the Colts. So on paper, it seems like, this is an easy matchup. You go with the Rams, but I don't think it's the case. I think the Redskins are a decent team, not a playoff team, but a borderline playoff team. And to be that borderline playoff team, you have to win a game like this. The Rams are probably better than they were a year ago, but I still don't think they're that great. They should be able to beat them. I want to say they'd have no problem, but I think it's going to be a pretty close game. Kirk Cousins can't play like he did last week, though, and I don't think he will. I think he'll get it together, and I think he'll have a good performance, and the Redskins will win this one. No, it's not my pick. It's not my survivor pick.
Sean McVay is former Redskin offensive coordinator, former Washington offensive coordinator. Wade Phillips, he knows defense. The guy knows defense. I'm going on gut here, but I think the Rams are going to pull this one off. And another close. I've got a lot of close games this week. So 3 points. I left a lot more concerned about that Redskin receiving core than I thought I would be overall with Pryor. Crowder had a tough game. Crowder needs to be better. What does Washington do in their running game? And I think the Rams will just have the momentum from what happened last week, even though it was a terrible team. What happened last week, they'll be able to carry that momentum and go 2-0 and possibly remain in first place in the NFC West.
Hey, I'll take somebody agreeing with me on this one. Okay.
And who does AC have?
AC, I have to go to Twitter real quick. AC has the Redskins.
Okay. Next game is going to be Anthony's survivor pick, and of course he's going to be going with the 49ers in this one. On the road in Seattle, very clearly, Brian Hoyer and the 49ers. Honestly, I was watching the 49ers play last week. Team returning players of their 53 from last year, which is the league low since 1992.
Fucking hell.
Wait, how
They
many?
had players, only 17 from last year.
Wow.
That's a third of the roster. Less than a third of the roster.
That's
Okay.
rough turnover.
This team has no talent. They have a couple of players on defense. I watched almost the entire game against the Panthers. Their offense has Pierre Garçon and Carlos Hyde. And honestly,
Nothing
their
else.
third best player on offense is Brian Hoyer. I'm serious. Like, you look at this team, the talent is not good. Kyle Shanahan tries his best, looking a little frustrated when they can't convert 4th and 1 3 times. Their defense actually played pretty solid. Impressed me in the secondary. Got a little bit better pass rush than I thought. Their linebackers are kind of sneaky. Their D-line was good against the run. But the Seattle Seahawks are going to dominate this game. They need to dominate this game after losing to the Packers the way they did. Their offensive line obviously was lackluster. And if the 49ers can't get a pass rush in this one, again, it's going to be a lot closer than people think because of that. The Hawks need to get their head out of their ass when it comes to offensive line. But I think their defense, the Seattle defense, will be enough to win this game. The 49ers will have difficulty scoring and, even passing the 50-yard line. So I think the Seahawks will win this game pretty handily. I think Russell Wilson makes a few plays and bounces back from last week. So I have the Seahawks.
If the freaking Seahawks lose this game, they will not be making the playoffs. It's as simple as that. They cannot lose to the 49ers team that has no talent. George Kittle was their third receiver. No, he was their second receiver. Carlos Hyde got receiving more receptions than him. Marquise Goodwin, who has speed but cannot catch a ball, he is now becoming 2017's Nelson Aguilar. Congratulations, Nelson Aguilar. You have passed that level. For now, you only get in 1 week. There's no talent on offense. The defensive side has talent, but Rupert Foster's out. So that's concerning. By the way, I did the percentage. It's 32% stayed on this team. That's amazing. They're not favored by 13.5 points, so they do beat the Jets in that category. I still have them as the third worst team in football. But, my God, I mean, it's the Seahawks. They face the Packers, who are one of the better teams in football, and really surprised me on the defensive front. Now you're playing the 49ers. No question, Seahawks.
Yeah, you guys guessed it. This is my survivor pick. I'm going to go with the Seahawks here. I almost did the Panthers, but I'm like, I like the Panthers more than I do the Seahawks this year. So let's get my Seahawks pick out of the way. Yeah.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
You're not picking the 49ers?
No, I'm not.
Oh.
This isn't 2012 anymore. Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick back for a starting job. I'm telling you.
Seahawks, what else do I say about it? The 49ers suck. They're not good this year.
Garbage.
Seahawks, they're not that great, but they're probably winning the division unless like Russell Wilson gets hurt this game. So I'll go with the Seahawks.
And this isn't the Rams where they always get that one division win against the Seahawks. It's the 49ers. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a couple of things here. I thought the defense looked pretty outstanding last week. Very controversial ejection to Jeremy Lane after that turnover. They're also a very questionable pass interference call on Jimmy Graham late in the game. I like the fact that they tried to use Jimmy Graham late. Wasn't entirely impressed with the offense. Won the line, but I also think the running game, I think you need to decide who to go with. And hence, it's not Eddie Lacy. You need to decide that. That's going to be a big thing with defense. That front four was outstanding. They found ways to use Sheldon Richardson. I like the way Will Hite played. Secondary was Shaq Griffin played okay considering the position that he was put in against Jordy Nelson. Some places he had a tough time, but in other, Jeremy Lin will be back and will be given more experience. Just to me, I think the big thing is this offensive line needs to get better and they need to establish the run. I want to see them cover the spread. I think if they cover the spread of 14, I will be happy with that. If not, I will still have a little bit of concerns. But this is a team that's going to grow out throughout the year.
Okay, and AC has the Seahawks.
Yes.
The next matchup, it may be the most interesting of this week, which is the NFC Championship rematch between the Green Bay Packers at the Atlanta Falcons.
Whoa.
Same place where it was played, except the new stadium. And this was the first time that Atlanta will play in that stadium. This is tough. This is really tough. The Packers last week looked good defensively. They forced a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson. They were stopping the run. Mike Daniels looked like a force. Some of the secondary young players were showing out and had a good game. Offensively, of course, they have Aaron Rodgers, and he's Aaron Rodgers. Jordy Nelson still looks like a great receiver. Randall Cobb had a good game. Going to be interesting to see if he can have a bounce-back season. Devontae Adams was kind of quiet. Martellus Bennett did his thing. They need to get a better run game going. I think they will need to do that in this game to win. But I'm actually going to go with the Atlanta Falcons, despite me being down on them after the Chicago Bears game, and I'm down on them this season. I think this is a bad matchup for the Packers. I think Atlanta's defense is really underrated, and I think Atlanta's defensive line, similarly to what the Seahawks did, they play the same defense, they play the same scheme. They're just not quite as talented, but they're young, they're fast, and what we saw in the NFC Championship, Aaron Rodgers didn't move the ball that great last year in that game. A lot of that had to do with the home crowd of Atlanta, the speed of Atlanta's defense, and the ability to get to Aaron Rodgers. I think they do that again this week, and I think their secondary's improved with Desmond Trufant. I think they can cover better. I think you'll see a lot of man coverage in this game from Atlanta, and I think that the Packers won't score as many points as we think. Then on the opposite side of things, I look at Atlanta and I say, sure, they didn't play great in the run game offensively, but it can't get much worse. And then the Packers were really successful on defense last week because the Hawks couldn't block. And I look at Atlanta's offensive line. It's pretty good. I don't think they'll have much of an issue with that. So I look at Matt Ryan, and as much as I think they are missing Kyle Shanahan from that offense and the creativity of him, I think they'll still be able to take advantage of some of the matchups like Julio and all the other guys they have, maybe Austin Hooper as well. And I see Atlanta pulling out a game in this one. So what do you guys think about it? I think it's going to be a really good game.
Story time, everybody. Story time. Love doing story time. Okay. This is a new segment. Take you back to week 2 of 2016. No, Anthony's going to love this story. Packers, Vikings. Sam Bradford, new quarterback into town, comes in. This is his first week to basically know everything and beats the Packers on Sunday Night Football. Week 2 against the Packers. RELAX. Just because they beat the Seahawks, okay, that's an impressive victory. There has been some struggles. And while I do want to pick the Packers, I think it's not going to be favorable.
Bro, did you copy my pick? Because you look like you were frustrated after I picked that Atlanta.
No, I was frustrated at first, and then I had to really think it over. And then I got story time called up. Look, this is a hard matchup for me to pick. Honestly, this is the hardest matchup all week. There are some good things about Green Bay that I want to pick out of the situation, and I would have been more confident in picking Atlanta had they actually had a better performance. Like if they had crushed the Bears, I would have picked the Falcons more easily. And the Packers got a good victory over a really good team if they had an offensive line. So in this situation, I'm like kind of confused as to where to pick. But I got the Falcons here because, A, this is the first game in a new-ass stadium. That's going to be a key for them. They're going to have the home field advantage at High Flames. I think they're taking over the Saints as the best home field advantage in that division. And then you have, just some better matchups. That defense was looking very sprout, last week. We weren't very high on them, but they went out and showed. The offense, if they can get Julio Jones more involved, which they were talking about that they need to get him more involved, that's going to be critical for them. And look at the ass whooping they delivered to them in the NFC Championship game last year. I don't think it's going to be that high scoring, but I got this gut feeling that the Falcons are going to win. AC has the Packers. I'm not, if everybody goes the opposite way, I'm not going to be mad about it here, but in this situation, I got to pick the Falcons.
Let me start out by saying I love the story. I love thinking back to that a year ago now. Great way you opened up a new stadium for the Vikings. Now you're opening up a new stadium for the Atlanta Falcons. Can't forget that one either.
Yes.
But we're talking about an NFC Championship rematch. Like Dylan said, like everybody said thus far, two good teams are arguably the best two teams in the NFCs by some standards. I don't think so. I don't think the Falcons are that good. And, I'm going to pick the Packers here as a Vikings fan. I'm picking the Packers, but I'm not picking my Vikings. I think the Packers, they're going to start out decent, go 2-0. We'll see what they do the rest of the season. I mean, they'll have their little slump halfway through, and then
where's their RELAX, man?
They'll get it.
They got to go 3-5 for that to happen. So
that was like 5 years ago. I think he said that, and people still bring that up. It's so annoying when Packer fans bring that up. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh no, he said it again last year, didn't he? He said he
might have. I don't know what he was saying. They were struggling bad. He said something. I don't know what it was. It's right. I'm picking the Packers, even though I hope they get killed. I really do. I'd love for them to go 1-15 because they can't go 0-16 now. But Packers. I hope I'm wrong.
Yes, NFC rematch. The opportunity for Aaron Rodgers to play Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. That opportunity was taken away from him, and I think it's going to burn him a lot. I think the fact that this is going into the new stadium for Atlanta also plays into this. I'm not high on Atlanta. I just am not. I think there's still so many problems with them, and Green Bay didn't look awesome last week, but they did enough. That I'm going with the Packers as well. I think Ty Montgomery will have a solid game. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to get his revenge. I think he's going to be pissed off, and he's going to be on fire in this game as well. And I think this might be a bigger win for them. I've got Packers by 7. I think the Packers will take this. Not sold on this Atlanta team. I thought they needed to make a statement. They needed to make the biggest statement this week against Chicago. They didn't do it. Their defense may be underrated, but Aaron Rodgers is going to carve them up this week the way Brady did in the second half.
Hey, Kev, who's your survivor pick this week?
New England.
New England? Okay.
Maybe he said that. All right.
I forgot.
And the Monday Night Football matchup, the New York Giants are going to be playing the Detroit Lions in another game that's going to be very interesting. Two teams that, should be in contention to make the playoffs this year. Giants left a stinker last week against the Cowboys. Really did not impress me in any real area. I mean, they played a decent defensive game, I guess, but even in that regard, they weren't overly impressive. The Detroit Lions, though, or should I say the Detroit Matthew Staffords, came back. He made a lot of plays. Kenny Golladay showed up. I think we found out that the Detroit offense has a lot more weapons than we expected. Despite that, is Odell Beckham playing? Do we know this?
We're not 100%. They said he has to have a good. Here's the thing.
Can I say if Odell Beckham play, because it follows my theory, all right, and it will back me up, right? since the offseason, I've been saying Odell Beckham is the best receiver in the league. Okay. Second thing I've been saying is the Giants are not good without Odell Beckham. So if Odell Beckham plays, they're going to win. If Odell Beckham does not play, they're going to lose. Simple as that. I'll leave it at that.
Wait, who's your pick?
I just gave you my pick.
That's not a pick. Nope. Need an answer.
I said if Odell Beckham plays, the Giants are going to win. If Odell Beckham doesn't play, the Lions are going to win.
All right, so I'm going to put you at lose. Okay. I put loser. Okay. AC picked the Lions. I'm going with the Lions as well. Giants put up a stanker in Dallas. I was very disappointed, right? I have this team going to the freaking Super Bowl, and then you put out a stinker like that. And look, my predictions for the Super Bowl last year were even worse, considering I had the Steelers versus the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm not very well when it comes to early predictions of the Super Bowl. But the Giants, to me, went out there and produced garbage. It didn't seem like they were out there to play with the best of the best. And the Lions are a more unpredictable team to me than the Cowboys. But I see what Matthew Stafford was able to produce was hot fire. They get that game of Theo Riddick in play, and that's very nice to see. Golden Tate will not be leading the league in receptions, but he will be leading that team in receptions and will be top 5. He is definitely a good receiver. I enjoy what he brings to the table. And that defense, pretty solid. I think they can stop Eli Manning for what it is. OBJ, I don't know. I feel a little selfishness in there. But at the same time, he's still a very good receiver. Top 3. So if he's not playing, that's going to hurt them a lot. And if he is playing, I still don't think they're going to win. I think they'll lose by a field goal just because I think Matthew Stafford's going to bring it to the table, and I think Eli Manning is over the hill. He's past his prime. Go draft a quarterback next season, New York. I will say the Lions win this football game.
Jimmy Garoppolo's on the block.
All right, Jimmy Garoppolo and NYG. Actually, that's going to hurt me. I don't want that. Fuck that. All right, continue.
Well, for me, I'm going with the Giants. I'm pretty high on them this season. They surprised me. It's, Odell being out really hurt them. I think he's going to play. Even if he doesn't, the Lions, they're always the fourth quarter team. This game isn't going to be decided the first 3 quarters. It's that last quarter. It might be that last drive that this game comes down to. It's not necessarily that I trust Eli more than I do Stafford. It's more that I trust Ben McAdoo and that coaching staff more than I do Jim Caldwell and that coaching staff. Lions have played a lot of close games. Last year, the Giants were a pretty good team. I think this is a winnable game for the Giants, and I think they win here. If they don't, the Giants will be in trouble this season. I hope that's not the case because I have them going I have them going as far as the team could go this year, which means Super Bowl victory. So I can't have them lose.
So
now.
you see the problem. Yeah, you see the problem.
So I've got to go with the Giants.
I'll say this. The thing about the Lions that scares me against the Giants matchup is they're so one-dimensional, and because the Giants have such a great secondary, it's going to be tough for the Lions. Like, it's going to be really on Matt Stafford in this game, a lot. So if the Giants offense has a competent performance, should be able to get it done. But give me the Giants right now, Dylan. But seriously, if Odell doesn't play, I'm switching my pick.
This is bullshit. Can we do that for every team?
It's an injury risk.
If Russell Wilson tweaks his left thumb before the game starts, I'm picking 49ers.
He's not on the injury list yet. So
fine. I'll go with the Giants.
All right.
Kev.
The Giants looked old last week, and they didn't look on the same page. They don't have a running game. Brandon Marshall was lost out there. Eli was lost out there.
Who?
Eli Manning.
No. The one before that, I've heard of this Eli fellow. This Brandon Marshall. Like who?
Brandon
Are you
Marshall.
talking about the linebacker for the Broncos?
No, I'm talking about the former wide receiver of Jay Cutler.
This man has not played for a single playoff quarterback. God damn it, Jay Cutler and fucking Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was his best quarterback. I feel bad for the guy.
I think that the Lions can be creative enough with their wide receivers to do a number of different things to make this successful. And that's why I'm going to pick Detroit. I think the other thing is really it's not what Detroit's going to do. I think it's what the Giants can't do. And I came away thinking that this Giant offense is really bad. Their offensive line Flowers is not a good left tackle at all. And as a Seahawk fan, I know bad left tackle when I see bad left tackle because we have a bad left tackle. So I think there's a lot about the Giants. If Beckham is there, I can understand why Mitch would want to make his pick. But as we talked about in the review, though, Mitch, Eli didn't look like he could throw that ball as well as he did before. So I'm going to stick.
All
with
he needs to do is throw a 5-yard slant.
Yeah, but he couldn't get that ball down the field.
No, he couldn't. I'm concerned about the Giants big time. If the Giants, I got to stay with them because I think they're going to be a good team this year. So I got to stay with them. But if they lose this one and they play the same way offensively, I'm totally off them this year.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with I'm picking with Detroit for this one.
Good.
Okay, let's go to the comments and wrap this video up.
I'm going to pop out because I get it. They're asking me to leave here. So.
All right. Hey, Kev.
Hi, Kev.
Make sure you take the priest and the actor with you. Don't leave them behind.
The actor is over there. The priest is praying somewhere.
Okay. All right. Dean says, okay, so for this one, while I do think it's going to be a close game, this will be the best game of the week. I think Denver will win 20-17. He has the Skins. Clark says he's got the Raiders, Patriots, Bucks, and Seahawks. Muhammad says Martavis Bryant or Devontae Adams. This is tough.
Bryant.
Wait, against the Vikings? Ooh. No, I'll take.
I'm gonna say Bryant because they're at home. I want a bounce back performance. And he most likely won't get Rhodes. Most likely.
Yeah.
So I'll go with Bryant. Adams. It seems like I don't know. Randall Cobb. I think Randall Cobb will have a bigger role than Randall. The Packers have more options to go to, I think, than the Steelers do. Clark says the Bears have Cohen. The kid had a very good showing versus the Falcons. Jeremy says ringtone goes off at funeral. Another one bites the dust. Clark says, yo, Kev, do you think that Jeremy Lane's ejection was some bullshit? Well, does anyone else want to answer that question?
I didn't actually see it. I actually literally have not seen it yet. So I
don't think he should have been ejected from the game.
What exactly happened?
Is either both of them or neither? Not just one.
Was there fighting motions? Or?
No, they were like running down the field. Shin says Packers versus Falcons equals best game in week 2, but seeing how my beloved Patriots bounce back is going to be interesting as well. I agree. Love the channel, guys. Well, thank you guys for joining us here. Another long one. It's tough with 4 people, and we need to give all our opinions. But thanks for joining us. Like the video if you have not. Subscribe to the channel for more NFL content. Tomorrow I will have my topic video out about the Patriots. Already how to fix the 2017 Patriots.
Wasn't that supposed to come out today? I don't know.
I delayed it. Thursday's a better day. Also, I'm going to have the Stardom and Sit 'em out as well. So thanks, guys, for joining us. It's Mitch, Kev left, Dylan, and Anthony. Peace.
Peace.